Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Great to have you here today. Thanks for spending part of your Saturday with us. First of all, hope you and your loved ones are doing well and are healthy and safe during this time. We want to welcome you to our session entitled Get to Know Boston College, the PreHealth Program. My name is Pete Caruso, and I'm an Associate Director of Undergraduate Admission here at Boston College, and I'm joined by my colleague, Sue Migliarese, who will be assisting with Q&A in the background. We'll introduce our speakers in a little bit, but first we want to congratulate you on your acceptance to Boston College and to applaud you for navigating the college admissions process in such an unprecedented and difficult time. In addition to this morning, we hope that you've been able to participate in our various virtual programs for admitted students thus far, and we will be continuing to feature a number of sessions over the next few weeks before the May 1 reply date, addressing different aspects of university life. Just so you know, all these sessions, including this one, are being recorded and edited and uploaded to our YouTube page so that you can watch them at your convenience. Also, we've been delighted to offer in-person campus tours at a limited capacity for admitted students. So it's been wonderful to welcome families to the campus for the first time in over a year. And in many instances, it's their first campus tour. We still have some slots open over the next few weeks. If you have yet to be able to visit campus, you can just go online and register soon. Today, we're so delighted to have our presenters join us who have been such great friends of admissions and wonderful supporters of our programs over the years. Dr. Danielle Taghian is the chair of the PreHealth Faculty Committee and also an associate professor of the practice in biology. And Dr. Rafael Luna, Associate Dean of the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, Director of the PreHealth Program at BC, and Director of the Gateway Scholars Program and staff. So the way we do this is they'll present for about 30 minutes, and then we'll have plenty of time to answer any questions that you might have, which we asked to put in the Q&A section of the webinar. We have an hour. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Taghian. Danielle, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
My apologies.
That's okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's great to have all of you come to our talk to learn more about the PreHealth program. We're going to bring up a slide deck over here, and we're going to get going with Dean Rafael Luna. We'll begin, and then I'll continue the slides, and he'll give introductions about our entire team. So I'll bring it over to Dean Luna.
Hello. Thank you, and yeah, and I hope that everyone's doing well. I want to echo and thank you, Professor Taghian, for the introduction, and just want to echo what Pete Caruso said, that hopefully all of you are doing well. And we do realize that, hopefully your health and your whole family is doing well during this pandemic. It's been quite challenging for a lot of families. And not only that, just with the COVID and the health concern, but also just, navigating the application cycle. So I want to say congratulations. It was to be accepted at this point during this COVID cycle. It's a huge accomplishment. And so if you're sitting there with your parents, hopefully, your parents realize how hard it was for you, but then also you realize how hard it was for your parents as well. So I have a teenage daughter, and, the parents feel it as well. So one thing that, at some point you should give your parents a hug, just saying thanks. If you're admitted, that means there was a lot of family support that was able to help you get to this point, because it does take a village. And so we want to get started. The PreHealth program at Boston College, it's not a major, it's a program of study. It's the largest program at Boston College with about 2,000 students. So this is something that Boston College does very, very well. And we really pride ourselves with our PreHealth program. And it's an open program, free to any major in any discipline. And so this is quite key, because what we're seeing is the national trends that it's best for a student to major in what they excel at, as opposed to thinking what medical schools want. Because, what we're hearing from the deans of medical school admissions is that they want students that bring their campus and their medical program alive. And that's with students that are passionate about what they study and really have a strong why they study that, and what is that they want to bring to that medical field as well. So, and we're here to provide advice, information, and support and resources from day one, starting from the summer all the way until you get into medical school. So here's the team. We've been introduced, Danielle and myself, but I want to give shout outs to three amazing individuals. Our pre-health advisors are Miss Erin Curley and Miss Maureen Simmons. I could tell you that they meet with so many students, and they answer so many questions. The volume that they work with and assist on every single level, from summer all the way through until you get your student, or until you get into medical school or dental school, they're quite phenomenal, and they're quite compassionate. And they're also parents, and so they really know how it is like to really be nurturing and pastoral in a way that's efficient, to really help students kind of figure things out for themselves, but with some guidance and information resources, but at the end for the student to decide what's best for them. And then we have the amazing Kathy Ortiz, who keeps all of us on point. She's the administrative assistant, and she keeps all the balls in the air and like doesn't drop any. And so we just continue to keep moving, and it's a well-oiled machine. And so, all right, so for most medical and dental and veterinary schools, there's some requirements. So we said that we're not a major, it's a program, and you can major in whatever you like. Boston College is a great liberal arts college. And so we're great at biology, we're great at chemistry, but we're also great at history, theology, philosophy, English. And so whatever your strengths, that's probably a major that you might want to consider. But if you do a major that's not in a STEM field, then you may want to complete a year of biology. That's what you need for medical schools, and a year of general chemistry, a year of organic chemistry with labs, a year of physics, which you won't need for dental school, but it's still good to have. A year of mathematics, Calc and Calc 1 and biostats, or Calc 1 and Calc 2. A year of English is highly recommended. And a year of statistics. It's highly recommended because some schools specifically require statistics, and some schools require biochemistry, like Creighton Medical School. The Jesuit Medical School requires biochemistry. So, oops, can we go to the next slide, please? Oops, Danielle, there you go. Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I was a little frozen there, everybody. I'm sorry about that. My internet's a little wobbly here.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
Thanks, Rafael.
And so we have, so here's some statistics to know. So, students that come to BC take great courses, not only, like in chemistry, biology, and physics. Students that take those STEM courses, and take the MCAT, irrespective of major, they do really well on the MCAT. But please note that the MCAT consists of biology. Here you can see the first one is biological and biochemical foundations. That's basically biology and organic chemistry, and some biochem. The second line is basically chemistry and physics. And the third is quite interesting, psychology and sociology, really strong components of the MCAT. Here's the fourth of it, right? And so if you're a psychology and sociology major, that might work for you as well. The critical analysis and reasoning skills, it's a reading section, verbal reasoning. And so the national median score is a 510, and BC mean is 514, which is in the 90th percentile. And we certainly do have a lot of students that score in the 520 and the plus range as well. And what we found out with our BC students, irrespective of where you come in at BC and how you test on your standardized testing, we found that the MCAT is a function of time. The more time you put into it and preparation, and by also preparing and studying through doing well in the courses at BC and taking them when you're ready, then those students tend to do very, very well on the MCAT. And for the DAT, there's biology, general chemistry, and organic chemistry, a perceptual ability test, and reading comprehension, and quantitative reasoning. Here, the national median is 20, and our BC mean is 22. And we're excited because I think that over the last 3 years, there's been 100% acceptance for our dental admissions. and then also some programs require the GRE for veterinary medicine or to be a PA, and it's just very similar to the SAT. So health profession schools, they require health related experience. So it's quite difficult. So it's not difficult in a way, but I think it's something that we want to keep in mind. So the first, the aspects for admissions to medical school or to dental school, and it's your grades, your science GPA, how well you do in your science coursework, along with the overall GPA, how well you do on the standardized tests, whether it's MCAT, DAT. But then also they want to know that you're really committed to the practice of the health profession that your student would like to attend. And so they want to make sure that there's shadowing hours, that you volunteer in the hospital and clinic, that you work as a scribe at a hospital, clinical research, biomedical research, serve as an EMT or certified nursing assistant, a medical assistant, or any health-related internships. But please note that since you're here today, you're entering freshman, there's not the assumption that you need to have this that first year. What we tend to encourage our students is to come and fully immerse and experience BC and do really well in the foundational courses, because then once you get that and adjust to the workload and to college and to different type of learning that's different from high school, and then starting in the sophomore or junior year, start doing more of the healthcare related experiences. And then, so how would someone get health related experience? I'm glad you asked, because in our PreHealth program, we provide the tons of opportunities for websites that are looking to hire different health related experiences. And also we rolled out last year, due to the pandemic, some very awesome students teamed up with the PreHealth program to offer Eagle Shadow, which is a virtual mentoring program, and it was featured in the BC Chronicle. So if you haven't seen that, you should Google Eagle Shadow and BC Chronicle and read that article. This was started by students and for students, and they impacted them a lot of the students, and to allow them to gain health-related experiences during a pandemic when everything was shut down. So, and we're going to continue that program even after in the post-pandemic era as well. And we also work closely with the Career Center. There's Eagle Exchange as well. And also in our program, we also have Eagle Docs. I forgot to mention, it's a database of previous BC alums that are willing to provide opportunities for BC students. And then also, we've been working closely with the Volunteer and Service Learning Center and campus ministry to really have opportunities for our students to serve. Because another aspect of medical school is not just health-related experiences. They want to know, are you a compassionate, or do you work well with humans? And do you work well in the sandbox? It comes back down to that. And do you care for your fellow person and human being? And so opportunities, there so many opportunities through campus ministry and volunteer service learning center. And those opportunities, we encourage them, students, to kind of get a little involved earlier with that, because it's on campus. And there are different aspects. For Boston, goes into campus a little bit, but there are a lot of service opportunities really interfacing with the offices on campus. And there's BC Neighborhood Center, and we're in Boston. So we're at the epicenter of biomedicine in the world, with the best teaching hospitals in the greater Boston area. And so a lot of our students take internship opportunities at the hospitals in the Boston area. And it's an easy T ride from Boston College. And the T is the subway, but we call it here the T in Boston. So, and then also we have BC EMS, that we've heard from deans that that getting certified as an EMT, emergency medical technician, is fantastic, and they like that, and it helps students get health-related positions in hospitals, particularly now, even more so during the pandemic. And we also have a Mendel Society database as well. So I'll turn this over to Professor Taghian, and you're in great hands with her.
Thank you so much, Dean Luna. That was great and informative. Welcome, everyone. I'll echo what Pete Caruso and Dean Luna said. Very excited to have you here today. And I just want to give you a little bit more information about the PreHealth program. So as we detailed earlier, the director of the PreHealth office is Dean Luna. And there are 2 assistant directors, and there's a PreHealth faculty committee, which I chair. So part of this committee are 16 faculty members and 2 deans. And the committee is designed to, once a student decides whether they're going to dental school or medical school, the committee is put together to advise students through the entire application process and to assist them with their essays, how to apply, and to give feedback and write a letter on your behalf that really makes you shine. And so together, you can see that we have a program which is very, very full. We encourage everybody to come right from freshman year to come on in and start meeting with us, because we can make this very daunting process, long road ahead when you're applying, seem very, very doable by doing it in chunks. There are many student leadership programs also on the BC campus, which assist with the PreHealth office and work in conjunction with it. That's the Mendel Society, and they run a medical school admission night with the deans from several of the top medical schools in the country. And so you have feedback right from the deans themselves. And we just had one 2 weeks ago, and the deans from Harvard, Tufts, BU, UMass, and NYU were there. And previously we had one from Kaiser Permanente, Quinnipiac, medical schools as well. So it's, and Creighton medical schools. So you can see that our relationships with the medical schools are very strong, and they give us feedback and assist the students as well. There's also a peer advising component to the Mendel Society. And so you'll be paired with a buddy who's older than you if you go in your freshman and sophomore year, and they can assist you with even from course selection all the way to gaining healthcare experience, and sort of pass forward all of the information that they've learned over the years. Our Eagle Shadow program, as Dean Luna said, is a weekly virtual physician shadowing program that has been absolutely wonderful this past year. We have a SHOFA organization with just STEM and health outreach for AHANA students, and they have a peer advising and STEM tutoring component to it, as well as pre-PA, pre-dental, and pre-vet student organizations. So all of these student leadership or programs within the sort of pre-health realm of the university work organizations. You can see that on our website, you would find a lot of materials and meetings. We offer every year during your tenure at Boston College a meeting where you can meet with us and let you know where you are on track toward your goal. So if your goal is to become a physician assistant, a veterinary doctor, a medical doctor, a dentist, and so forth, these meetings help kind of keep you on course with both your coursework, your experiences, and your volunteering, as Dean Luna had said, all important. And these packets, which are part of our website, help you have something sort of physical to take back from the meeting, where you can actually make sure that you have a checklist and everything is up to par where you need to be. You can see that you can log on to our website here if you would like more information. It has a plethora of information on there, you'll see, and it will kind of help you go through everything. We have here too a final application meeting and an interviewing packet. These are when you're about to apply to your health professional program. We help you get through that last year of before you apply. So in terms of application support, I said that we have a committee that works together with our students. And before you even go into committee, we as a PreHealth program, really talk about strategic advice with you. So you can see that for medical and dental and vet schools, there's a 3 or a 4-year cycle. The 3-year cycle means you apply to your health professional program as a junior, which is the more rare way to apply. Usually about 15 to 20% of our students apply as a junior. And then the 4+ year cycle means you apply in your senior year or as an alumni. And you can see approximately 75% of our students, which is exactly aligning with the national average, apply as a senior or an alum. So you might want to go straight through. So if you apply in your junior year, you would not have a gap year. But if you applied in your senior year, you would have 1 gap year, or beyond, you could have subsequent gap years. Students take gap years because it enriches them in quite a lot of ways. And sometimes, for example, if you're a student athlete, you might not have as much time, or if you immerse yourself in a lab, you might not have as much time to get all of your clinical experience in. So you would take a gap year to gain that before applying in order to have your best chances of acceptance to your school. We have a checklist calendar to keep everything on track. Our pre-med committee works one-on-one with students. And you can see we offer several workshops, a personal statement workshop to make sure that you're writing, presenting yourself in the best way in your writing. It's really important to have a strong personal statement reflective of the authentic you, which is what the schools want to see. Targeting for the right schools to apply for you, because it's great to know the mission of that school and match yourself to that. Through the whole application process, we have test prep courses. We have relationships with some of the companies like Kaplan and Princeton Review to help you decide how to prep for your courses. And of course, like I mentioned before, we offer a committee letter to students applying through medical profession programs in order to write a composite, holistic letter representing you and your years at Boston College. We have a new interview preparation starting about 4 years ago, which has been phenomenal. It's been Dean Luna and the 2 assistant directors, Mrs. Simmons and Mrs. Curley, who together have been mock interviewing students prior to their actual interview. And so when a student has an interview, they'll write the PreHealth office and we set up a mock interview. We've had tremendous feedback from this program. I have to say that students have felt a lot calmer going in. There are different types of interviews, and we interview in the style of the school that has asked you to interview. So we're trying to align ourselves very well with what the schools are requiring. We also have an alumni resource book and interview reports. So the alumni who have already been accepted to those schools and have matriculated will offer some advice about what the school is seeking and the style of the interview, who might interview you, things like that. Our placement statistics, like we said before, we have an open policy. So everyone is welcome to be part of the committee letter process. And even if you decide to not get a committee letter, you will have access to all of our advising throughout your 4 years and beyond. We like to say, once an eagle, always an eagle. This, I can give you an example. This cycle, one of my students who is 30 years old applied to medical school, and he got into several medical schools. So just to show you that people take a lot of gap years sometimes, or might pivot their career and choose it a little bit later, but we're still here to offer you all of the everything the program has to offer. So our goal here is to produce an informed applicant. So we have a high placement rate for the health profession schools, and part of that is because there's very strategic advising that goes on. We feel that with a Boston College education, all of you can attain your goals. There's no question about that. But part of what the advising offers is that you apply in the correct cycle. Typically, when students do not gain admittance to one of their programs in the first try, it's because they applied a little too early and should have taken a gap year, and they get in on the second year. So we always try to make sure that we strategically advise to make sure that your application is in the best possible, it's put together in the best possible way before you apply. So you don't want to have big things missing from your application, because it's very, very competitive. This year in particular, you might have heard that the medical school applications have gone up, just like an undergrad, almost 20%. And so it's become very competitive, and it's good to look at the advising and make sure that you're applying in the right cycle. Our admission statistics show that BC students who attained a committee letter and their acceptance rates are higher than the national averages. So about 40% for medical allopathic, that's for MD programs. This year we hit an 80 percentile. In the past, we've had sometimes a lower year at 66, which is funny because even in a lower year, the next year, all of those students get in. So for most of the time, it's pretty good. So this 80%, you can see 35% for osteo, and we have a range of 40 to 80% in any given year. And for I can't even remember how long, 7 or 8 years running, dental and veterinary acceptances have been at the 100th percentile. And the academic metrics that are needed in order to gain admission. And if those metrics are not met, it's okay, because you can do some additional coursework or retake an MCAT to get to where you would be on this chart. So the circles all indicate accepts. The X's are students who haven't been accepted. And a lot of times when we go back, we'll see that it's either GPA or MCAT, and sometimes it's healthcare experience and volunteering. So remember, they're looking at you holistically. And so it's important to make sure that you have all of those pieces in place. So the takeaways from today is that our program is structured and very supportive. We offer a lot of different venues where you meet deans of medical schools, where we have advising, we have open lecture advising for students. So we're trying every few months to have something for every class you're in, for the freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. At Boston College, of course, you're going to receive an excellent, well-rounded education, and we want you to discover and fulfill your unique purpose while you're here. And I'll leave that for questions.
Great, thank you both. That was such great information. And we received a number of questions in the chat, which we'll get to, but as I expected, a lot of them were already addressed in the context of the presentation. So always so thorough and helpful. Well, let's see what we have here that might not have been addressed. There was a question about students who for studying abroad and how that sort of impacts the pre-med track.
That's a great question. So our students who study abroad typically study in their junior year, the majority of them, which is sometimes the year that either physics or organic chemistry is taken, depending on how you sort of will take your prerequisite requirements for your health professional school. So just to answer that, I'll let you know that a lot of times students will not take Gen Chem 1 and 2 freshman year or go 1 and 2 sophomore year. They'll wait, and really freshman advising is all about making sure you're balanced. It always used to be calculus, the molecular cellular intro course, and Gen Chem 1 were the trilogy, kind of like the toughest 3 courses in your first and second semester freshman year. We no longer advise that way. We make sure that students are prepared before taking those 3. So with that said, when your junior year comes where you study abroad, you may or may not be either taking organic chemistry or physics. There are a couple of ways to think about that. One is, if you apply in your senior year, you'll finish all of the requirements and you'll have 1 gap year. Another way to do it is to take those requirements as a summer class. You could certainly do that. It's more common that students will wait and just apply with 1 gap year. We encourage you to go abroad. The only time it might be a hindrance would be if you wanted to apply as a 3-year applicant in your junior year. It could be a little tough to get all the requirements in to apply then, but because the majority of students apply in their senior year, you certainly could go abroad. It's super enriching, and I think you'll learn quite a lot. And I always say to students who want to go abroad, when else are you going to have 6 months of your life to go and explore a new land and study there? So very much encouraged.
Great. One of the questions that we often get is related to major compatibility with PreHealth. Are there majors that aren't necessarily compatible with being on the PreHealth track?
Rafael, do you want to take that?
Yeah, there's not one major at BC that's not compatible. So that I hate saying the negative and negative. So how about this? Every major at BC works perfect with the PreHealth program. Whether we have students not only in MCAS, the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, we have students from CSOM, Carroll School of Management. We have students in the Ed School apply, and they're just as successful. So there's not one major. So we do really encourage and advise students to major in what they do great at and what they really love, because that really comes off. And we heard from one of the deans, actually the dean during the dean's night at the Harvard Medical School dean. He says, you know, they're not going to put together an orchestra with all cello players. So they're going to be looking at different majors. So if it's a major that's quite unique and you're quite gifted in a certain area, then that might play to your strength, because it's just the law of supply and demand. If there are less students applying from that major, that could give you a competitive edge. And so, and then it gives you a little bit more time. If you major in a non-STEM, it gives you a little bit more time to take one pre-med course a semester and to have a really high science GPA and go to medical school, and also have time to do campus activities, extracurricular activities. And so you should play the students. We always try to encourage students to play to their strengths, but at the end of the day, whatever they decide, we'll support them. Because some students want to do a major and learn something new, and that's fine too. So it's not that you have to come in and have experience in a major, but we do advise and present all the different types of information. All majors at BC work really well with PreHealth. Would you agree with that, Danielle?
Yes, absolutely. I think there are a couple of, no matter what you major in, there might be a couple of biology courses that you might want to take one or two more, such as biochemistry, because it's often, it is on the standardized tests to gain admittance, as well as maybe anatomy and physiology. But those are extras in addition to whatever major you want to be in, and plenty of time and room in your curriculum to be able to get those in.
Great. We had a couple of questions about research, and one specifically on biomedical research, if you can speak to that.
You want to take that one, Danielle?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So we have many labs on campus in chemistry, biology, and physics, if you wanted to do biomedical style research. And like we talked about before, there's a medical area in Boston. One is called the Longwood Medical Area, and that's where there's the many major hospitals and universities. So you have Harvard Medical School there, Beth Israel Deaconess, Brigham and Women's Children's Hospital, the Joslin Diabetes Center. I'm forgetting one. And in other words, there's a whole conglomeration of hospitals there. And then uptown, there's Mass General Hospital, and more downtown is BU Medical Center and Tufts Medical Center. So in other words, we have lots of hospitals here hiring Boston College students doing biomedical research. If that's your thing, if that's what you want to do, you really should go for it. We have connections to a lot of places, and we can actually tell you how to, or help you put together a resume so that you can apply to some of these positions. There are summer internships in a lot of these places, as well as, like I said before, on campus itself, so you wouldn't have to take the T and travel to your location if you didn't want to. Incredibly enriching experience. I think it's not a necessity to be on part of your application, quite honestly. The schools, if you do research because you love research, they want to see that because that's the authentic you. But they always say, don't do research because you're trying to check a box. There's no research box to check there. The clinical experience is more important.
So we also have a question about in terms of what medical schools consider in terms of GPA. Do medical school admissions only look at science GPA, or do they look at the overall GPA, especially if the student has a double major?
That's a great question. So they look at both, right? It's data and a lot, it's information. So a lot of people that on the admissions committee are the physicians that, from science background or non-STEM, but they're physicians, so they're scientists as well, or they have scientists on the admissions committee. So they're going to look at the data, right? And so they want to see what's your, overall GPA, but also particularly seems to be a bit of a filter for your science GPA. They really do kind of, because that first year of medical school, it's a lot of science, right? And so they want to make sure that you're able to get through that as well, right? And so, but they also look at your overall GPA as well, because remember, for medical schools, it's typically the first year, the second year is all science, but then you go into working in the hospital. So they want to make sure that that the other grades are strong, but then also that you have experiences working with human beings and people and great people skills, because that's really critical in the hospital or in the clinical setting. And so opportunities where you can get experience working with other humans, like, student leadership, leading campus retreats, and being a retreat leader, orientation leaders, anything working with other humans is great as well. So it's not just the GPA, it's holistically, it's one piece, it's a piece of information among everything else. So it's not that if you have a 4.0 GPA and the perfect MCAT, that won't get you into medical school. You still need clinical health-related experiences, and they want to know, what did you do on campus? Did you participate in clubs? Did you make your environment better? Because they want to be able to predict, if you come to their institution, that you'll make their medical school better. So it's not just GPA, but it's holistically, and hope that answered the question. And Danielle, you might want to chime in.
Yeah, I'll second everything you said, Rafael. That was well put. And I also would say the science GPA is a bit of a filter. So it is more important to have a high science GPA. Your overall GPA is typically higher than your science GPA, but it's important to do well in those courses. And that's where the timing of when you take them, so that you're not overwhelmed by too many science and math courses at the same time, can be very important, because medical schools they don't care if you took what you took freshman year, if you took Gen Chem with molecules and cells and whatnot. They don't even look at that. They just want to know that you excelled when you took those classes.
And then I just want to add, and if you since you're admitted to BC, you can do well in these STEM courses.
Right.
But I think students could benefit from being strategic on when to take them, how to take them, and put in the context of what brings them alive, and they're passionate about in their major. Because students that do that tend to do very well, because it's a function of time for a lot of these courses. You just need time to study.
Great. We had a question about how many freshmen subscribe to the PreHealth program, and then how many ultimately, as they put it, survive, and actually apply to medical school. And also, just to follow up to that, are you seeing any trends either way in terms of the numbers that are they increasing, or are they stable, or are they decreasing?
Mm-hmm.
I think we have about 500, sometimes I think 500, 580 students, freshmen that come in. So about a third of the MCAS, Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, are pre-med students. That's why BC takes pre-health quite important and gives us the resources and support that we need to make sure the students are successful. But at the same time, BC is a Catholic Jesuit institution, and we want students to find something that they love. And you may come in pre-health, but you might find, during the core courses that you have to take history, philosophy, or theology, something in there might just come alive inside of you, and you might find something else you want to do or pursue social justice. And so we don't really see students saying, oh, we're surviving. What we see students doing is thriving in what works best for them. And it's different for every student, right? And so, but what we're seeing now is that, given the flexibility of the major selection, then I think that that the numbers remain be very high. And we have students also applying. Sometimes they do a fellowships, like when they graduate, instead of applying in the 3-year cycle, they apply in the 4-year, because they might be one of our top students and they receive a Fulbright fellowship to study in Vienna, Austria, or in England. And they do that. And then that helps them to not only get into medical school, but perhaps a higher ranking medical school as well. So there's so many different paths. But I think if you're accepted, we want you to know that you can get into whatever to a medical school or a dental school. You do have the goods, but then it's just how you want to get there. But if you decide that medicine or dentistry is not for you, then we're okay. We will try to support you and connect you with the right offices to help you follow the path that really is in your heart. So we want you to follow your heart.
Great, thanks, Rafael. We also had a question asking for a sampling of some of the specific medical schools that BC pre-med students have been admitted to.
Danielle, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. My goodness, can you guys still hear me okay? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
This whole internet has been, yeah, I can tell you that. In 1 second, I'm actually going to pull up a data slide for you that will show us our top schools. So this is for medical school, they asked, correct?
Yes.
So can everyone, I know it's a little bit small, but here represent our totals accepted. So you can see this is a good snapshot of our top schools. We're schools that accept BC students. And the numbers vary from year to year, but one thing you might see as a trend in all of these schools look for people who are involved in social justice initiatives, who do service to others in need. And all of these medical schools align very well with the BC, basically the motto, serving men and women for others, ever to excel. All of our, basically who we are, the understanding that service to others is of the utmost importance for your own growth as a student yourself. So this is just a small sampling, but you know, I have to say every single year we have students get into a number of Ivy League schools too. Those aren't our top schools, but we have Harvard, Yale, Stanford this year, as we did last year, Brown, Dartmouth. So if you're looking for that kind of a metric, that's there. And that's something that our advising would help you attain. But the school, if the dean's night, the one thing that, if you remember, Rafael, the one thing they said is like, it does not matter which medical school you go to. And this is like the dean of like BU and Harvard saying this. It matters that you're going to get the same exact education. What matters is that you match that school. The mission of the school matches who you are holistically as a person.
That's great data, Danielle. Had a couple of questions about BC students being graded on a curve, and if this is an issue for students, and how does that affect the medical acceptance rate?
Okay, that's a great question. So in terms of the rigor of the program in the sciences, it's very high. Students who go on to dental, medical, veterinary school PA programs find their first year to be very, very manageable. So I have tens of emails every year saying, I am so prepared for medical school and I see that my peers are suffering more than I am. So thank you for making me suffer in advance. No, just kidding. So there's a lot. So in terms of the curve, whether the average in a class is 81, 82, 83 percentile, and therefore the class is not curved, or if the average in a class is like a 60, right? And then the class is curved, you have the same grade distribution. So just remember that either you get no scale at all and you still have the same A's, B's, C, D's, etc., or you put it on a scale and you scale it to the same number of A's, B's, C's, D's. So a lot of students, sometimes if the average is higher in an exam, they worry more than if the average was lower. I'm like, guys, it doesn't matter. It's the same grade spread, no matter what the average is. With that said, yes, our classes are scaled for the most part.
Yeah, and just to add on that, just we want to drill home this message. You know, like for you to be accepted at this point, you're a highly, highly selected student, and you're very strong. And so you're coming in taking tons of AP courses. Oh, you know, to get in a place like BC, you had to have taken a lot of AP courses and load up with a very rigorous high school training. But when you come to BC, we want you to take your time now and to pause and say, okay, now how can I be strategic? Because what got you here to BC won't that same methodology won't help you be successful. Now you need to think, okay, I need advising. I need to go to the PreHealth program. You know, can we talk? What works best for me? Where are my strengths? Where could I, you know, if there's a course that I need a little bit more time on, maybe that semester you don't load up with a whole bunch of other courses that don't play to your strength. And so if you do that, then the curve or no curve, you'll have enough time to really be successful at your work and to enjoy it, because we don't want you stressed. We want you to experience and to be a vibrant part of the student community and working with others, tutoring other students that may be struggling or helping others and working in groups. But you need that bandwidth. So what got you here won't necessarily help you be successful here. So that's where advising is quite key. And the academic advising and the PreHealth program, that's one of our strengths that we do here at BC. And then once you do that, then students tend to get into the medical schools that they want. But it takes a plan from day one.
Yeah, I agree. You have to plan accordingly.
We had a question about how common is it, and is it appropriate to switch within the PreHealth program from pre-med to pre-vet, for example?
You can do either one.
Yep.
I've seen both directions: pre-med to pre-vet, pre-vet to pre-med. The coursework is the same. It's just that when you're ready to apply, the standardized test that you take is different. So you would take an MCAT if you wanted to be an MD or a DO, and you would take the GRE if you wanted to go to veterinary school. I just wanted to make one other point. This is just a piece of advice since we were talking on the last point about the curve and everything. Please, no matter which school you choose to go to office hours, say hello to your professors. Even though the whole year has been on Zoom for me this year, I've told everybody, and even when we're in person, come and see us. We want to know who you are. That's what BC really is. Professors want to know their students, and we want to make sure that you're not struggling and that you're doing your best work and getting to know your professors. Later down the path, someone has to write a letter of recommendation for you. If you go 4 years without knowing any professors, no matter what school you go to, you're going to be in a pickle at that point. So it helps you grade wise, it helps you understanding the material, and it'll help you later. So I just wanted to make a plug for go to office hours and visit your professors.
So, absolutely. So we had a question about when you're shadowing a doctor, do you take a document to prove that? What's the formality involving shadowing doctors through the docs program?
So the Eagle Shadow program, I think Rafael has a certificate associated with it, correct?
And it verifies the hours through the virtual shadowing. So we do encourage freshmen to get active in that, because if you can collect your hours and are certified through the Eagle Shadow program, and then also there's some mentoring as well, some peer mentoring in the Eagle Shadow program. So it just helps you when you're looking for that clinical shadowing experience. Then I'll let my colleague Professor Taghian talk about the clinical shadowing in the clinical setting.
I froze.
It's okay. Yeah, I hear you now. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't. Can you still hear me? No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh boy, sorry guys. The other thing I wanted to say is that on your application, you list the name of the physician that you shadowed. And that is a verification, because the medical dental vet school could ask to have that verified through the physician. So you don't have to have a document.
And typically, the physicians would write a letter as well if you shadowed and had meaningful experiences with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, just jumping around here to see if anything hasn't been addressed as of yet. Oh, we had a question, and Danielle probably addressed this about office hours, but it's almost like the philosophy of it. Can it be open-ended just to get to know people, or is it more appropriate to make an appointment? What's probably the preferred approach? Does it depend upon the professor?
It probably depends upon the professor, but pretty much all of my colleagues say we love when students come to office hours so we can get to know them better. We usually list office hours for individual appointments as well. And so you can make a one-on-one. I've had students just come by and say, I don't have questions right now. I just wanted to say hello, let you know that I'm in your class, if it's a larger class, or just to get to know you better. And just say, I'm interested in, and then they'll, tell me maybe about research, or they play piano, or they, I teach a cancer biology course. So a lot of students will come in and say they know somebody who had cancer and make a relation that way. So there's just a lot of different ways that you could go to office hours and just meet your professor that way. And of course, coming in with questions helps you learn the material better, helps your peers learn the material better, and lets the professor have an understanding of where students might not have developed a full understanding in their class.
Great. This is an interesting question that we just got that might, I'm not sure, I didn't even think about this, but with the new human-centered engineering major, and now the first class is going to happen this coming fall. We enroll 25 students. Has there been any dialogue between the two tracks, the departments?
So I will be meeting with the chair of engineering, but have not done yet. So I can't really answer that yet, but yeah. We have an email chain going back and forth because there will be engineering majors who are certainly going to be interested in medical school as well, and we'll support them like we support everyone else.
Great. Yeah, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned, yes.
Breaking news. We also had a question about the number of students that actually join the pre-health track as sophomores as opposed to freshmen, and how many actually do that.
Oh, I would say, Rafael, you can take this.
I think the number is probably a little bit less. I think most students coming in probably decide, but there is the peer mentoring. Like they might be in a class and they take a calculus or biology or chemistry class and say, hey, I'm pretty good at this, but I was majoring in something else, and you were doing one of your core requirements, and then you've seen a lot of pre-med students, and you say, well, maybe I can be a medical doctor as well. And I think those students typically may not realize that you don't have to be a STEM major to be a pre-health student. We do have some that are coming in. The number is smaller, but we do have some that are just, hey, I'm a business major, and I really want to make an impact in medicine and bring health economics or something like that into medicine, and they bring that, and then we work with them as well. So we do have students come in late, even juniors, even seniors, or even after they graduate. They do some courses, and we work with alumni until you decide. There's no cutoff for the time to work with alumni. So if you decide in your 20s or 30s, we'll still work with you. Sorry, go ahead, Professor.
Sorry, I jumped in too early. I was going to say, you have to also let go of the idea of feeling that you're going to be off track, because you have to remember gap years are very well looked upon by all of the health profession schools. They want to see that you have gap years because it shows that you've developed more in your thinking about medicine and dentistry and so forth. And so those gap years are favored, they're not looked upon negatively. And so just to remember that you'll be on track no matter when you start. If you start a little bit too late, you might need some coursework to catch up, or do a subsequent year of some graduate studies, taking some classes. But we'll support you all along the way. So don't feel stressed about if you came in later.
Yeah, and the national average of getting to medical school hovers between 24 to 26 years old. So it changes a little bit every year, but that's the national average. So
for first year,
for first year entering medical school. So they do prefer work experience and maturity as well, of just getting really and bringing something unique to the medical school as well. And you can gain that through time at BC and also after BC, after 1 or 2 or 3 gap years.
It's funny, we had a question related to the gap year, and are there things that graduates do specifically during a gap year besides working?
So yeah, so I think it depends on, a lot of times that gap year is taken to fulfill and make a more holistic application for the student. So a student who maybe has no healthcare experience would do a year or 2 years as a medical assistant, or a scribe, or working in a clinical research laboratory. A student who might have a lower GPA would do a year of post-bac classes to get their GPA higher. A student who is really interested in research and didn't have the opportunity but has some clinical touch points already might do a year of research. Then there are many students who do Jesuit Volunteer Corps and AmeriCorps, which are all volunteer. Well, it's not volunteer. You do make a little bit of money, but you live, you walk side by side with purpose in service to those who are in need. So you might be working in a community that's underserved for healthcare or education, and a lot of students do that as well. As well as we have some students who'll do a Fulbright scholarship or study abroad for a year. So the whole gamut, but typically students do healthcare related experience.
Yeah. And also, like, you know, thank you so much, Danielle, because it's also, there's not like a stigma, maybe previously in like the 90s and the early millennium, that there was a stigma, or I need to do a gap year to get into medical school because I didn't do everything I needed to do, right? That's not the case. Our top students, our presidential scholars, you know, our top students, they're doing gap years, doing Fulbright fellowships, working in Washington, D.C., doing healthcare policy reform. And then they're bringing that to the medical schools. And also what happens as a corollary is that they end up getting into higher ranking medical schools as well, because they're bringing really a national perspective or international perspective that just students aren't able to get within the confined time and space continuum of 4 years. So so they do that as well. So it's not, we don't see a gap year as a stigma. Oh, I didn't do everything I needed to do. Yes, we do have some of those, but we do have our top flyers. And again, this year, our students with the 3.98 GPA, they're doing incredible things and doing that before they go to medical school and bringing that to their medical schools as well.
So I think we'll end with this. Are there notable courses where a student can actually cross off multiple requirements with one course? And it probably is related to the core as well, but just a comment on that.
So in terms of pre-health requirements, is there one course that is the question? Is there one course that knocks out 2 requirements?
Requirements for med school, not in general.
Yeah, so biostatistics would do that, or any statistics course would do that. It would get you the second semester of the full year math sequence. It could, if you took biostatistics, add to your biology major, but a lot of medical schools require statistics, so it would take care of that requirement as well. That's the first thing that comes to mind. A lot of medical schools are requiring biochemistry, so biochemistry could serve for your major and could serve for pre-health. So there's a lot of doubling up like that, but those are the ones that come to mind. Rafael, do you have any others?
Yeah, and also like with the biochemistry, some medical schools don't require organic chemistry too, and then they prefer biochemistry. So some students do that, and that might give you a little bit more flexibility for study abroad. So it depends on which medical school you're aspiring to go to and your target list of schools, because every student is different on which medical school they would like to attend. So,
well, we've come to the end of our hour, and want to thank Dr. Taghian and Dr. Luna for just their generosity and just the wealth of information. Want to thank our attendees for putting so many great questions in the chat. As we leave you here, we want to wish you the best. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hope you stay safe and healthy. If you have any questions before you make your decision, sometimes at this stage of the process, it's very convergent, and you have the pleasant dilemma of having so many wonderful choices. But if we can help in any way, just let us know. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and be well. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.